I come back to a guy who's played 9 of his last 10 rounds in the 60s, has been top 20 in 8 of his last 10 tournaments, and is plus 275 to finish top 20, Russell Henley. It's not a sexy pick. It's Russell Henley. But again, 8 of his last 10 tournaments, top 20. He's coming off a rough one at the John Deere, but I think he bounces back from that. 9 of his last 10 rounds in the 60s. And again, second to only Colin Morikawa on that distance from the middle of or from the edge of the fairway. The driving accuracy, again, is key with Henley. And I like him on this course layout, as Kenny Kim explained to us yesterday. Very punitive the farther away you get from the middle of the fairway. So it's Russell Henley for me, top 20 at plus 275.
Jon Rahm, I mean, like you said, he's been inconsistent. He went to Arizona State, where I went. I'm going to root for the guy. I think he will have success here, but I'm not doing outright. I did top 10 for Jon Rahm at plus 140. And then who else? Colin Morikawa. He's just so solid. We all know he's got the best iron play as well. So plus 650, top 5 for him.
J-Rod, as you look at this thing, I think I'm taking some of Kenny's advice, and I see Aaron taking some of it here too. I'm looking at driving accuracy. I'm looking at, in particular, distance from the middle of the fairway, and I'm seeing some familiar names. I'm seeing Colin Morikawa pop up. I'm seeing Brian Harman, who Aaron just mentioned. I got another one for you, but I'm curious how you're looking at this, and if we're all going to try and play, I guess, the irons and driving accuracy strategy home here in the British.
Listen, to me, one of the points that we made with Kenny was, European guys, right? Because they're used to bad weather, they're used to the wind. So that's the first thing I focused when it came to this. And the name that kept coming up to me was Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland, he struggles on his wedge shots. Well, that's not going to be a problem at Royal Liverpool since it's a links course. 20-1 to win it, 4-1 top 5, plus 188 top 10. I'm kind of liking that. And in terms of Colin, Morikawa, I mean, it's a little, it's starting to feel chalky at this point. But 5-1 top 5 plus 240. In the top 10. And listen, Jon Rahm, a buddy of mine who's a golf writer, said he looks like a guy who is waiting at the end of the school year to start his summer vacation. That's the way he's been playing, right? But this is the Open. This is one of his dreams. He's from Europe. This is one of the places he wants to win. Plus 240 to be top 5. 12-1 to win it. I might sprinkle on Jon Rahm. And listen, and the reason why Ricky Fowler is on such a heater, in 11 starts at the Open, the various courses, he's only missed a cut once, and he's been top 6 3 times. So there is some flavor there, at least, plus 450, top 5, plus 220, doubling your money, top 10. I don't know if he'll win the thing, but I think there's definitely some method to the madness.
We'll be watching this even more closely, I think, here in the States, guys. Aside from the betting angles, is a three-peat possible? And is this sort of the peak, as Sebastian brought up last week, Aaron, is this the peak of the disparity between U.S. power in women's soccer and the rest of the world slowly catching up? Do we see that catch up and that gap continue to close this year? Again, New Zealand, Norway gets it started at 3 a.m. The U.S. women get started Friday night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific against Vietnam. But this might be their one last true opportunity to be as dominant as they have been over the last 20 years.
Yeah, the U.S. national team has never failed to reach the World Cup semifinals. So they are, I believe, minus 250 for that, which is like, whew, that is a big price. But obviously they are heavily favored to win Group E. I'm probably not going to bet it at minus 250. To reach the final is plus 125. You're just not getting a lot of value on the U.S. women's team, J-Rod.
Yeah, I mean, when they're such a juggernaut, and even though Sebastian makes a great point that, you're going to have the sort of the gap in competition is shrinking, The one kind of smart play that I wanted to bring up is like, if first of all, you got to figure out who are the good teams, and you always want to have that mentality of the men's guys, and not necessarily like, it's U.S., Germany, Sweden, England, France, Spain, Canada, Brazil. Those are like kind of the top 8 in the FIFA rankings. So when any of those combination of teams play, I think you want to look, especially in group play, you want to look at draws, because when you have 2 equally competitive teams, especially in these top 8, top 10 of FIFA rankings, you think the draw is something that's easier for those teams, because they're going to make, they're going to whoop up on the other teams in their group. For example, if you go to group F, you've got Brazil and France in that group together. So they're going to face each other in group play. To me, maybe a play there is a draw, because you're going to get some value of it. And those are 2 highly competitive teams before you get to the knockout stage.
What are some of your favorite win totals that you've been looking at, whether it's overs or unders, for this upcoming season?
Yeah, there are definitely some that jump out to me. First one I might take a look at would be going to the ACC. I believe Pitt's win total is 7. And I think when you look at Pitt, they lose some stuff from last year, but they lose things like their quarterback, Keaton Slovis. But they're replacing Keaton Slovis with Phil Jurkovec. And Phil Jurkovec is a guy that at Boston College with Cignetti as his offense coordinator 2 years ago, he had a great year. And I'm a big Jurkovec fan. I think he improves the quarterback play. I mean, let's face it, Slovis only had a 10-9 ratio last year. They've got an offensive line that went through some injuries. They'll be solid. When I talked to Coach Narduzzi going over the running back core, yes, they lose Avanconda, but he feels that either Hammond or Flemeister will be a 1,000-yard rusher this year. And defensively, they lose some players off the defensive front, like Kalijah Cansey, who was unstoppable. However, they lose first-round draft picks all the time off their defensive front, yet they've had 51, 46, 54, and 48 sacks the last 4 years. Narduzzi would develop a defense. When I look at their schedule, I've got them an underdog at Notre Dame. I've got a couple of toss-up games on the schedule, but with an over-under win total of 7, I think Pitt's got a chance of being a double-digit win team and potentially be one of the teams to break through that Clemson-Florida State battle at the top of the ACC. So they would be one of the teams to look at the top. At the bottom for an under, let's go with Purdue. I believe the win total there is 5.5 or 6. And when I look at Purdue, yes, they made it to the Big Ten title game last year, but that was with Jeff Brom, and it was sort of fortunate to get there. I didn't even feel they were the best team in the West last year. I thought Illinois was. Now when you look at Purdue this year, they've got a new head coach. They've got a lot of transition, as usually happens when you have a new head coach. They go from number 54 in my experience start all the way down to number 112. You look at they're going to run the football more this year than they have. Of course, that's natural when you got Brom there, or, lose Brom. The defense looks okay this year, but I actually have them an underdog in 3, 6, 8 games this year. So, and 2 games is a toss-up. So I think getting over that 5.5 and getting to a bowl game will be pretty tough. I'm going to go with under in Purdue.